Okay, well, good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We're going to have our official press conference to present the proposed budget for fiscal year of the Board of County Commissioners Oliver Gilbert and Miami-Dade County Commissioner Eileen Higgins. And we're going to have remarks in Creole, and we're going to open up for questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Natalia. Okay, great. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our brand new media room on the 18th floor. This is our very first time using this new media room, so we're really excited to have you here. I'm proud to stand before you once again to share our proposed budget for 2023-24, the coming fiscal year. And I want to thank our chairman, Oliver Gilbert, and Commissioner Eileen Higgins for being with us today, and I look forward to hearing from them as well. We're growing like never before here in Miami-Dade County. Our economy is booming, and we're making proactive investments to sustain our growth and to make sure that all of our residents can benefit. Last year, our historic budget set the lowest tax rate since 1982. We've made targeted investments to make sure all of our working and middle-class families could pay their bills despite the rising cost of living. And this year, as we look forward to the future, we must continue to offer much-needed relief to residents to weather the current challenges and to lay the foundation as well for future prosperity and growth. So with this year's proposed budget, we're creating a more future-ready Miami-Dade. We're building for today and investing in tomorrow, and providing much-needed relief as well through a holiday, which totals over $36 million in savings for our residents. Our fiscally smart, compassionate, and people-first budget builds on last year's historic tax cut. It also is making key investments in our community's core priorities: housing, transportation, public safety, small business, our environment, our families, and older adults. So we will continue to build on the progress we've made to tackle the affordability crisis by building tens of thousands more units to expand workforce and affordable housing, to deepen our commitment to resident protections, such as growing our Office of Housing Advocacy. We're hiring more social and case management workers. And we're continuing to implement the Historic Homes Plan that's providing relief for renters and homeowners, and we're working to accelerate construction of needed development. And I want to thank our County Commission for taking the initiative on all of these matters. And along with housing, this budget deepens our investments in the infrastructure needed for a future-ready Miami-Dade that will better connect all of our communities. So I'm extremely proud that Miami-Dade has pulled down nearly $1 billion in discretionary state and federal grants since the beginning of 2022 to support critical enhancements in our infrastructure. That is quite a milestone and actually an example for the entire country. This budget also includes a 20% increase in capital infrastructure investment. We really are building the future, and that commitment is echoed in this year's budget. We're funding key improvements to our transit system, including fully implementing the Better Bus Network, a long-awaited priority that's critical to increasing our route frequency, connecting more residents to opportunity countywide. And thank you, Commissioner Higgins, for your leadership there. We're continuing to fund the SMART program, and the South Corridor is scheduled to be completed in this year's budget. We'll be connecting South Dade with what should be the most robust bus rapid transit system in the entire nation, a 20-mile corridor. We're making station upgrades across our Metrorail and Metro Mover systems, from upgrading station elevators and escalators, pardon our progress, to improving bus shelters for riders. Residents can expect to see the future-ready stamp across the county, from MIA, the airport, to your local bus stop, as we prioritize these critical projects. We're also continuing to fund public safety. We're investing in programs to prevent crime and take guns off the street, like Operation Community Shield, and we're continuing with year 3 of the Transformational Peace and Prosperity Plan. We're creating pathways for opportunity for high-risk youth. This year's Peace and Prosperity Plan Fit to Lead internship program is in full swing, And we've already hosted 500 summer interns across the county this summer, and we are expanding more opportunities for our young people. We're also supporting in this year's budget the new Miami-Dade Police Department Crisis Intervention Team. It's a mental health focused and trained police unit. Safeguarding our environment, our precious bay, our residents is crucial to Miami-Dade's continued prosperity. That's especially true as we experience more climate change-related threats like extreme heat, we all feel it and know it, and severe rain events, something that's top of mind for all of us this summer. And that's why our budget will accelerate the septic to sewer replacement, preventing flooding by investing in stormwater infrastructure and strengthened building standards. We're combating the impacts of extreme heat. We're protecting our residents through a greater tree canopy and worker protections. And in fact, we're putting $500,000 of new funding towards tree canopy enhancements this year. And these will be recurring over the next 5 years. So thank you again for that commitment. We're also directly seeking innovative solutions to the community's biggest climate challenges. And the Miami-Dade Innovation Authority has joined forces with us and just released its first challenge. It's calling on the private sector to find ways to repurpose sargassum. That's a win-win for our environment and our economy. We're also funding, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for sponsoring the Miami-Dade Innovation Authority. That was great. Okay. We're also funding opportunities so all small businesses can thrive in our county through funds for minority-owned small business grants to support local entrepreneurs. And we're completing the procurement disparity study, long awaited, to even the playing field for small and local businesses in Miami-Dade. Last but not least, we're investing in our families and increasing opportunities for our older adults as well. Some of those key investments in this year's budget include funding for Miami-Dade College that will make obtaining an associate's degree free for more eligible families right here in Miami-Dade. And we're continuing to fund important programs like Meals on Wheels that provide almost 1 million meals to older and at-risk adults. We're conducting targeted outreach to older and vulnerable adults who can benefit most from our life-saving programs like the Mortgage Relief and Weatherization Assistance Program, part of our Homes Plan. And we're funding wraparound services for family, expanding daycare options, and providing 70,000 one-way trips to the county's adult daycare centers. All of this is just a snapshot of some of the incredible progress and projects we're funding this year. Read all about it in our budget. You can learn more of our priorities investments at miamidade.gov/budget. And we'll continue to directly engage with the community as we've done before to make sure voices of the community are heard in this process. We're encouraging our residents to join our upcoming budget town halls that will be announced in the coming weeks and will start in the third week in August. So this is a smart, compassionate, and future-ready budget.
God agreed. God said
That was
yes.
very good, very good. Thank you, communications team, well done. It's very important to point out that the proposed 1% property tax cut will provide immediate relief to residents while also ensuring that our county can continue to provide essential services that our residents rely on now and in the future. So it's a balanced approach. We're offering relief also in the form of a 4-month gas tax holiday. From September to January through the holiday season, residents will pay 6 cents less per gallon at the pump in Miami-Dade. So I want to especially thank our incredibly hardworking budget team who seamlessly put together a budget every year that reflects our community's needs and priorities. And it is through smart budgeting and efficient use of tax dollars that we will offer relief to residents while investing in prosperous Miami-Dade for years to come. And I look forward to working closely with our Board of County Commissioners to finalize this. Thank you very much. Y ahora unas palabras en español, no muchos. Estamos aquí hoy para compartir nuestra propuesta de presupuesto para el próximo año fiscal. El condado de Miami-Dade y nuestra economía está creciendo como nunca antes. Por eso, con el presupuesto de este año, vamos a invertir en un Miami-Dade más preparado para el futuro, construyendo para hoy y invirtiendo en el mañana. Por eso, con el presupuesto de este año, I already said that. A la vez, vamos a brindar un alivio muy necesario para los residentes a través de un recorte de impuestos de 1% en la tasa de amillaramiento y una extensión en el impuesto a la gasolina por 4 meses, generando un ahorro de más de 36 millones de dólares para los residentes. Vamos a realizar inversiones clave en las prioridades fundamentales de nuestra comunidad, como vivienda, transporte, seguridad pública, pequeños negocios, el medio ambiente, familias y adultos mayores. Estoy muy orgullosa de este presupuesto que es fiscalmente inteligente, compasivo y centrado en las personas de la comunidad. Gracias. Thank you, everyone. And now I'm going to turn it over to our Commission Chairman, Oliver Gilbert, and after that to our Commissioner Eileen Higgins to say a few words. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't be long. I'll just offer this. You know, budgets, beyond the words and the numbers and the dollars, budget's about priorities. And you can look at this budget and you can tell what we're prioritizing. We're prioritizing preparing ourselves for the future because we understand that saying we need a healthy bay isn't the same as actually converting, septic tanks to sewers. We understand the difference between saying you value it and actually valuing it. We understand the difference between saying you value your seniors, but also then providing them access to activities and amenities. We understand the difference. We understand the difference between saying you want every child in Miami-Dade County to have an opportunity. But what we're doing is actually providing them opportunities. And these are the things that we do together. We do this as a community. That's what this budget, Representative Higgins wanted, the mayor wanted, what we know we need as a community. We know that we have to prepare a transit system for an ever-growing population and our boundaries that won't expand. We know we have to do that. So that we know we have to fund and start to prepare for the SMART program. We know that we have to provide for buses, people who live down south, electric buses, one of the best in the system, fully electric fleet coming from down south. We need to get people to job hubs quicker. That's what this budget does. But beyond the numbers, beyond what people will pay is the values of a community. And those values is what the document speaks to. The document speaks to us valuing Miami-Dade County and understanding our role as leaders to prepare Miami-Dade County for its next iteration, the growth that's coming, the growth that will come whether we plan for it or not, whether we prepare for it or not. The question is, will we be ready? This helps start to get us there. Thank you. Commissioner Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to echo on what you didn't say this today, and you always say this, a budget is actually a document that's about your values as well as your priorities. And if you have values-based priorities, they're one in the same. I hope residents are understanding that this budget continues our commitment to keeping you safe with a very robust funding plan for police and fire and public safety. We must feel safe in our own homes. But we also recognize that basically every person in our county is facing two great expenses, right? They're the top two expenses of every household, and that's transportation and housing. And I think you will see that this budget is a continuation of this board and this administration's commitment to making sure we are robustly investing in both of those priorities, building tens of thousands of additional affordable and workforce homes in the county, providing incentives for the private sector to do that, and then making sure that we are improving our rapid transit systems, the ones that we have, and preparing to quickly construct the ones that you need. Because when we can get you to and from your home and work more quickly, your whole family benefits from that. So I certainly look forward to a robust conversation about the budget and how we can make sure we're providing all of the services that our residents expect from Miami-Dade County. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our translation?
We need
Leonel. Get that right?
Yes. Thank you. Bonjour tout le monde. Jeudi, nous avons présenté le budget que nous avons qui préparé pour l'année fiscale qui va venir. Nous avons mis à faire des progrès que nous pas jamais connaît avant. Et progrès, ça, nous continuons à faire. Et nous avons fait sûr que nous faisons un investissement qui est proactif pour nous capables de progrès que nous avons déjà enregistrés. Et nous avons fait surtout que les résidents sont capables de bénéficier de progrès qui a fait. Année ça, nous portons regard vers l'avenir et nous connaissons que nous devons continuer à offrir tout ça que les résidents ont censé besoin comme soulagement et pour être capable de continuer à faire face à la situation que nous gagnons chaque jour comme défi que nous avons rencontré. Pendant que nous avons bâti, mettez fondation sur l'avenir avec prospérité et avec croissance. Avec année ça, budget que nous programmons, nous créons un contenu amidé qui chita beaucoup plus sur l'avenir pendant que nous avons bâti aujourd'hui et pour nous investir dans demain. Et puis, pendant que nous avons fait tout ça, nous gagnons tout préoccupation pour nous offrir à tout propriétaire 1% de soulagement que vous gagnez en matière de taxes et 1% ça libre à l'accompagner de 3 mois, de 4 mois. Et 4 mois, ça, 4 mois côté vous gagnez au campo sous et taxes que vous allez payer sur gaz. Ça totalisait environ 36 millions de dollars que vous allez gagner, tout résident vous allez gagner comme économie. Budget nous, c'est un budget qui est intelligent, c'est un budget qui est basé sur compassion, c'est un budget qui met les gens d'abord en premier. Li bâti sous repos que nous avons l'année dernière là, sous diminution que nous gagnons sous fiscalité qui était bail l'année dernière là. Et priorité nous que nous chita sous yo, c'est logement, transport public, sécurité publique, petit business et environnement, famille avec grand monde âgé. Ça c'est un petit regard tout petit sur ça que nous gagnons comme progrès que nous avons embrassé ensemble avec projet que nous avons fait autour. Et il a fondé et a financé pendant toute l'année qui a venir. Nous allons continuer à rester engagés directement avec tout le monde pour toute voix, tout le monde capable d'entendre. Nous allons gagner des rencontres et nous encourager la population à participer à des rencontres que nous allons faire sur le budget. Et rencontres ça, nous allons annoncer dans la semaine qui va venir. Et pas oublier, pour nous participer à des rencontres ça, et nous capable tout apprendre sur tout ça qui est comme priorité dans le budget, là, aller dans miamidade.gov/budget. Merci.
That was very good. Very good Creole. Okay, any questions, please?
Mayor,
Yes.
I know you guys were talking about the rapid transit, and I saw that there's a lot of budget focus on transportation in this budget. There was some reporting recently on the South Dade Rapid Transit and how there was the one-way trips for 20 miles are going to be 60 minutes. So I guess the question is, how is this budget making sure that the money is going towards an actual Gold Star transit system like this?
Yes, thanks. I was reminded that Gold Star, I put that in the legislation. So just so you know, totally committed to it. So I've learned that apparently the Florida Department of Transportation has that corridor as part of their scope, and so we're in conversations with them to make sure that we can deliver gold. Should we go this way, if that's okay? Yes,
So
please.
although you're proposing a 1% reduction in the millage rate, Miami-Dade residents, many of them are expected to see an increase due to property tax values or property assessment values. Why not reduce the millage rate further?
Yeah, we have to look at every year at how we can maintain the service level that people expect, want, and need. And owners with homestead exemption, are restricted in their increases. And basically, we're just trying to make a balanced
I guess
approach.
Essentially, is there relief if people are still paying more money?
Yeah, well, for some there'll be more, but it will be less more. It'll be a smaller reduction, and for others, there will be a reduction. So we're looking at, as I say, how to balance it, how to be fiscally responsible. We're also facing some unprecedented needs for funding, the constitutional officers, the increased cost of doing business, of supplies, and so on and so forth. So we just really wanted to be sure that we could be both smart and responsible about it and give a tax break, but also focusing on things that will help people reduce their costs, like increased focus on housing relief and transit.
You can say it in Spanish, and then I had a question on
En
waste
español, si
management.
puedes decirlo también. Por favor.
Okay,
Se puede.
let me try to summarize that. Okay. Estamos tratando de hacer un presupuesto balanceado porque necesitamos seguir con los servicios necesarios que las personas necesitan y quieren y demandan, y también dar un poquito de alivio de sus gastos. También estamos invirtiendo en cosas que va a bajar el costo de vida, por ejemplo, tránsito público y la vivienda. También estamos haciendo algo nuevo, que 4 meses sin 6 centavos cada galón de gasolina, y eso incluida con el corto en los impuestos, significa $36 millones de alivio. Okay. Okay, sorry. Natalia's handling it.
Hi, Mayor, how are you? It's a little bit more on the tax cut of 1%. And we noticed that that's where the high interest is for the population. Because, like Commissioner Higgins said, the biggest attention is on housing and transportation. Specifically with housing is where they feel more affected. So 1% was already discounted from last year as far as this new budget that you're proposing, 1%. Again, the cut. In terms of numbers, what would that be?
Well, first let me say, it's really unprecedented to have a tax cut at all, much less 2 years in a row. So that had not happened in a couple of decades. So just to be clear, we're working really hard to address the needs of the residents, both in terms of relief and also investing in things that are important to them. So we could not continue our robust investment in housing affordability or in transit if we did not have the funds to do that. As to any specific dollar amount, this is...
At least an approximate of what that means for
Yes.
the homeowner?
Okay, so our budget director, David Clodfelter, do you want to answer that?
Good afternoon. The value of 1% reduction in countywide is $18.6 million. As far as to the average reduction per household, I mean, that I don't have that with me, but it does fluctuate. It's something that, I'll have to sit with the PA and figure out exactly what the...
Because there's different categories, right? You want to explain that too?
Right. Countywide is the only taxing district that's being proposed a 1% reduction. So to that point, it's specific to the countywide. Someone also mentioned that those that are homesteaded, they're capped at 3%. So that goes into the calculation as far as who would pay and what.
So we can get more details.
Right.
Okay, very good.
Madam Mayor, thank you. You mentioned that this is a balance, and you also talked about some of the unusual or unprecedented costs. I guess the first one would be the new sheriff's department. Your budget, I believe, is calling for more than 700 new positions. How much of a driver is this new state-mandated constitutional department adding to the budget?
I'll allow David to answer that last part, but I do want to say that we've added positions, for example, in our building department because we're doing more building. That's all based on fees, right? It's not a direct property tax cost, and other things that are user-based. So it's not all positions coming out of the general fund. Same with aviation, which also has grown phenomenally, record-breaking at the airport, and so on. So, David, you want to answer about the other?
As the mayor mentioned, the increase to positions is primarily proprietary in nature and service fee-based, and to improve service, especially those in RER. To answer your question regarding constitutional office, there's a value of approximately $12 million for the implementation and/or transition period that we are planning for. That primarily will be cost as far as updating our systems, creating a separate environment. We'll be running 6 payrolls in 2025 rather than running 1 payroll cycle today, things like that.
Commissioner Higgins, I think you mentioned it also yourself now, said that the biggest priority, the biggest need is housing and transportation. If you could tell me in Spanish briefly any new projects for affordable housing and workforce housing that are in the plans.
Como he dicho, estamos con miles de nuevas habitaciones, nuevas unidades, pero también estamos tratando de completar el desarrollo que es más costoso ahora por las materiales, costo de trabajo. Entonces, sí, estamos tratando de crecer todavía el aumento de vivienda asequible. Y otros, estamos con fondos que vamos a invertir de surtax, que es muy importante, y tenemos un nuevo director de la vivienda que tiene muchas ideas, novedades también. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think we have a lot of procurement out. We have a lot of, we're gonna
For
be
the housing.
building. Sí,
Sí.
vamos a construir mucho.
¿Cómo se llama crane?
Sí.
What's a crane in Spanish? Grúa.
Sí.
La grúa todavía es el pájaro del Estado. Okay.
Hi, my question is for Chairman Gilbert. The Board of County Commissioners budget is adding like roughly 60 positions.
Yeah.
So you can explain what that was.
Yeah, we haven't actually adjusted for. We haven't actually adjusted for the number of people who are actually working in commission offices for a while. So since the county was probably less than $1 million, so we made the adjustment to allow for more personnel. That's one portion. The other portion is just the empty positions that weren't being filled and need to be recategorized in all of the other offices that are responsive to the BCC. And so that would be, intergovernmental, media, all those folks who actually work for the BCC. We're actually adding the positions that they've said they needed. And commissioners, look, you have our population, we're I guess almost 3 million now. So you have commission districts that are essentially trying to service an extraordinary number of people with the same number of positions that they had previously. So we made that adjustment because it hadn't been made previously for over a decade. And that's important to note, not just in the commission budget, but everywhere. A lot of times we look at what the increase is in a year, what the positions are in a year. We don't look at how systems were starved for decades. And you see that across the board in the budget. There are things in this budget, from solid waste to transportation. We know we need money in these programs. We know that the increases might not have come, in the fees to ride a bus. They might not have come in our disposal rates for decades, the way they should have. And so when you try to fix it all at once, it looks like a lot, but in truth, it's something that you should be looking back and amortizing over the past 20 years.
Do any of those increased positions include sergeant at arms?
No.
Sorry, thank you. So the gas tax holiday, is that just a great opportunity because of a county administrator forgetting to renew it? Or was that planned as a whole different separate thing?
So we have an opportunity to give back to our residents in this way as we're working on reinstating the gas tax. There were other ways that we could have done it through other taxes on the residents, which we chose not to do. No.
En el año fiscal 2019-20, ustedes estaban trabajando con un presupuesto para 28.400 empleados. En el año fiscal pasado, o sea, del 2022 a 2023, el presupuesto era para 30.050 empleados. ¿De cuánto? Eso es un incremento de casi 120 millones de dólares en gasto en nuevos empleados. ¿Cuánto es el gasto de los nuevos empleados y a cuánto ascenderá el monto de los empleados que tendrá el condado para este año fiscal?
Do you have that number? Sorry. Yo voy a primero contestar así. El condado está creciendo. Por ejemplo, los policías. Hay más gente, más llamadas. Para la seguridad de la comunidad necesitamos aumentar el impuesto. El sistema de tránsito público. Estamos creciendo para evitar más tráfico. Tenemos que conseguir más empleados. Estamos creciendo, tenemos que conseguir lo que necesitamos para servir al público. That was, in case anyone wanted to know in English, I thought it was a great question. The gentleman was asking about the growth of employees over the recent years, and I explained that we have great growth in the county. We have more calls to the police. We have more transit routes, more improvements to transit, for example. Those are just a couple of the examples. More attention to housing. So more need to build housing, more need for social services like our Office of Housing Advocacy that's getting thousands of calls from people as they're struggling to find housing. So these are some of the reasons as well. So did you want, yeah.
I want to add something to that. You know, a lot of times we focus on the cost of adding employees and the cost of doing things, and we don't focus on the cost of not doing it. And so in the mayor, in her comment, she mentioned RER. Well, for folks who might not know what that is, those are the people who process all your building permits and all that stuff. We know that stuff needs to get out faster. We know that because development is a major part of our economy. It's part of really our lifeblood and how people pay their bills in Miami-Dade County. So we know that we have to process those things quicker, and we know that the department was understaffed. So we understand that. The airport.
The actual
Listen, it is. We talk about the cost of doing it. We never can actually quantify for you the cost of not doing it. But I promise you, the slowing down of this economy, if we don't provide these services well, right now we live in one of the best places in the world from my perspective. But it won't stay that way. It has to be something that we perpetuate, that we grow forward, that we move forward. And how we do that is by making sure the services are up to par. That means we have to be faster and more efficient as a government. We just have to. We have to get stuff in and out. And so when the mayor's talking about adding folks in these departments, it's not just because we want to have folks in these departments. It's because we see that if somebody can build something and it takes 6 months to get a permit in Broward or Palm Beach and it takes a year to get a permit here, they're going to choose to go someplace where their doors can open faster. And that's not what we want. We want to be competitive not just in this region. We want to be competitive in this world. And so that's part of it.
Okay. Quiero decir en español porque era muy importante lo que ha dicho. Estamos creciendo como un condado y si no gastamos en más empleados para servir el público, vamos a perder el crecimiento. Gente no van a quedar. No van a querer hacer negocios acá. No pueden usar el aeropuerto, ni el sistema de tránsito, ni recibir sus permisos para la construcción. Todo eso depende en los empleados y si no estamos creciendo con la economía, vamos a perder el crecimiento de la economía. Y también tengo que corregir algo que dije antes. Estamos creciendo el presupuesto, pero no los impuestos. Quiero ser clara en esto. Okay.
Just to wrap it up, so basically, so if 1% is deducted from the homeowners and no more than 1% can be deducted, is that because even though people feel like they're paying more taxes have to be allocated to other services precisely because you said that the county is growing, so the only thing that they can actually get is 1% homeowners deduction?
So that is the reason that we've proposed what we have, the second year in a row of a a tax millage decrease, as well as a continued investment in future services that are critical to maintain our growth, the jobs, the housing, the police, the airport, all of those building permits, everything that we need. Yes, this is a budget that tries to balance both things, and that's why we've recommended, as we have the 1% tax deduction.
Madam Mayor, can you talk a little bit more about the capital budget? It's up 20%. What are the big drivers of that? And you have this basically, the property appraiser is calling it a windfall because of the property increases. How much of it are you investing in capital projects that will last for a long period of time?
Yeah, thank you. Very important. $1 billion of infrastructure funds, remember, brought down from state and federal sources. So we are also building out from previous year's investments that were not competitive. We got formula grants, so I'll ask David to go into more detail about that. But we are able to make substantial infrastructure investments, thankfully, because of federal policies. Well, let David answer, right? Anything more?
Well, just what for you is the drive, what projects in there in capital?
Hello. The capital budget, as you mentioned, is increasing by 20%. About 800 million of the billion or so is capital in nature. It has a combination, basically that increase is a combination of the timing of expenditures in those projects as they're coming to a close, like the new courthouse is a good example, with the addition of mostly proprietary capital projects. Airport was mentioned, and other proprietaries that are under agreements that need to be completed. So the majority of that are proprietary in nature, those projects, but I'll let the mayor finish.
Let me just, it's interesting. I just want to address a little part of that. You know, I appreciate the property appraiser in his role of appraising property, but he only looks at one side of the ledger. He doesn't know what the union requirements are for our contracts. He doesn't know the needs in any of the departments. He doesn't know that we have a police academy force. We were budgeting for 40, we got 40. That we need to actually address compensation in those areas so that we can keep having the number of police officers on the street. He doesn't know any of those things. He just knows the increase in the value of the property. So, and I appreciate his opinion, but all of these other things, whether those buses show up with the frequency and on time, and whether those parks are clean, and whether we can actually start to ensure the health of Biscayne Bay by transitioning these septic tanks into a sewer line. He's not contemplating all those. And I think that probably that's why we have county commissioners and a mayor.
Speaking of county commissioners, so we have two. Have you at all gotten a feel from the other 11 if they are on board with you?
So we do a lot to prepare for this budget release. And we meet with all of the commissioners. I think this year, 3 times we met with all of the commissioners. And I can't guarantee how they'll vote, but I hope that they'll understand how hard we're working to balance all these interests and that they will be supportive.
Yeah, sorry. And then Doug, and then last question, we can do one-on-one.
In terms of waste collection services, that's expected to increase as well. And how much of those funds will be allocated toward this new waste to energy facility, which is going to be a huge project this fiscal year?
Thank you. So we produce a lot of garbage. And really, it's on all of us to take responsibility for how much garbage we produce, and it's not really infinite. So we are working at a comprehensive approach to waste management. We put out a memo this morning that goes into some of the short and midterm considerations. Waste to energy is just one part of the equation. So yes, we have to dispose of our waste. We have to increase our collection fee because it's not covering the cost of collection, and even the modest increase that we recommended is way below what is needed to really pay for the cost of collection at this time. However, we are looking forward to putting out a more comprehensive plan in the near future.
But does this increase have anything to do at all with
No.
waste to energy?
No, it does not. No, it does not.
It has to do with the fact that for years, it was undervalued and underfunded. When people should have been modestly increasing the collection fee for years, the decision wasn't made to modestly increase it. So the mayor is really, really understating the fact that I think it's $36. In truth, it should be, if the system were to be made whole, well over $100 right now for a year, but we want to balance that out. We understand that if we don't address this problem, we understand that eventually we stop issuing building permits. So we know that we're going to address the problem at some point. But this is us trying to slowly address something that wasn't addressed for a long time before, that the system will not survive the way it is. We have to bring more revenue into it.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear, we're not in a crisis. We are disposing of our waste, and we have plans to continue to dispose of our waste. We do want a more comprehensive approach that would include a range of other solutions, and some of that is going to have to be financed, either publicly or privately. It's not something that we have in our capital budget.
We have one for last question, and we do one-on-ones.
Okay, let me ask you mentioned septic tank connections quite a bit, but when you look at the budget, is there more than $34 million from the COVID money for septic tank conversions? That's what's listed, and there's $90 million listed as unfunded for septic tank connections. So was there an opportunity missed there by spending the rescue plan and other money on other things?
Well, I just want to say generally, to draw down that nearly $1 billion, we did put up 200 and something million as match, and we do have other match set aside for other federal grants for which we've applied and are hopeful to receive. That being said, our match funds are not infinite, and of course, we're going to continue to look under every rock to find funding for septic to sewer. As well, some communities are creating tax districts, so there's a combination of grants, federal, state, as well as local, and maybe you want to say a little bit more about that.
So as the mayor mentioned, Doug, there's also other funding sources, such as the Septic to Sewer Trust Fund that was created by the board. And there are other revenues in other places, like proprietaries, that are matching grants to do some very big, large septic to sewer conversion.
Is that right, $35 million from the COVID funds for septic to sewer?
Off of the infrastructure category you're talking about? Off the top of my head, I cannot confirm that, but
And some might have already been spent, right? And we also have other commissioners putting up other funds, cities putting up funds, many sources of funding. That's it?
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your interest.
Thank you.
Stay dry.